Welcome to the AVNI Interviews. We're your hosts, Bork and Mikey Taylor.
What up?
We're the co-founders of AVNI, a brand for influencers and entrepreneurs. We are here today with Jesse Kay, your teenage entrepreneur who's found a ton of success. He has his own podcast interviewing guests like Jack Dorsey, Gary Vee, Grant Cardone. He also runs an agency. He's done stuff for, let's say, the Knicks and Madison Square Garden. Specialist in lots of things, including youth digital marketing, social media guru. He runs P-Rod social media. I could keep going forever, but let's get into it. Jesse, thanks for being here with us.
I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm excited for this.
You left out a couple people he interviewed.
I can't say them all. He's done like what, Jesse? Like 100 interviews? Like 50?
Well, I'm staring at two names right here that you
Oh,
left
yeah.
out.
He interviewed Mikey Taylor, the co-founder of Commune Capital. Do you want to say anything else about yourself there?
He's the top interview ever.
Is he really statistically?
No, but we can say that.
Well, no. Who's your highest?
I think
viewed?
Jack Dorsey and Gary are the highest.
I can see that.
Paul's
for-
up there.
P-Rod's always up there.
He's always up there.
So, Jesse, let's start with, where did the entrepreneurial drive start?
I think the biggest part of it came from seeing my dad do it himself. Like, ever since I was a kid, my dad's always been an entrepreneur. So seeing him do it and the lifestyle, like he works from home, and just seeing how he could do it and the impact he has made me be like, I want to do that when I'm older. So ever since when I was 9, I started a sneaker selling business on eBay. So I'd go like buy shoes from Nike for $180 if it was an in-demand shoe, and flip it on eBay for $230 in like 3 hours. And I thought I was making like $2,000 a month. I thought that was like, oh my God, I'm killing it.
Yeah, for a 9-year-old, you were killing it.
But looking back on it now,
I thought I was killing it. I was only making $2,000 when I was 9. Damn, Jesse. I'm sorry.
It's funny. Everyone I introduce him to goes, "Wait, he's 17."
Yeah.
Like when you talk to him over the phone, and this is our first time meeting in person, but
which is crazy.
When you talk to him
Yeah.
over the phone, you're like, "Oh yeah, he's got like his shit together. He's like doing really well. He's on top of it. He makes a lot of money. He's 17." I don't know why. Like maybe it's just us, but I feel like skaters in general, we don't figure it out till later. I feel like, as far as like what we want to do with life. Would you say that?
Yeah, it's almost like child actors.
Kind of, in a sense. Like we just want to skate, and then
Yeah.
like when that doesn't happen, then it's like, well, shit, now what? And usually you don't figure that out till what, in your mid-20s?
Yeah, as lots of young athletes, just depending on when you stop being a young athlete. Yeah, so if you go and progress, I'd say like 25.
Yeah,
So put your whole life into it. Like,
Yeah,
you don't
and
think
he
about
wouldn't
anything
answer
else.
his phone until he was like 25.
yeah, no, I was.
You would
like,
get messages like, "Call me
and
back."
that's why I think it's so funny. Like, dude, me at 18 we were so. You and I are so different. I was like, this was the furthest from my.
What were
think
you at 18?
The most irresponsible.
Did you have
child.
long hair? Was that your long hair time?
Now look, now the interview's turning on to me. This is what happens when you bring somebody on who has his own podcast.
I know,
They all of a
I'm
sudden
too.
turn into the interviewer. No, I was the furthest thing from you, man. Like I had no plan, no responsibility. I was making no money. We were just really different.
I think I actually tied your shoes a couple times for you.
Oh, dude, I was like completely life
Yeah.
illiterate.
At 18.
Oh, at
But
20, I was life
yeah, but at the
illiterate.
same time, you were obsessed with skateboarding. So if you would have been obsessed with being an entrepreneur, you would have been that obsessed.
We're obsessed with tying his shoes.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting
I
all
was
that done.
I was his older pro skateboarder friend.
Yeah.
At the
So
time.
it's babysitter.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah, big brother. So you're not okay. So you're 9 years old. You're
Yeah.
making $2,000 a month at 9 years old.
Oh man.
So then what? Like that to me would be like rich.
Yeah, to me it was. I mean, I did that. Then I got sort of bored of it because I was like, I want to go play with Legos now. Like, I was just getting bored. So I sort of just like stopped at like, I don't know, 12. Went back to like continued school, paid attention to that. And then right now I'm 17. So when I was 16, sophomore, midway through junior year of high school, I was in entrepreneurship class. And I actually didn't want to take the class because I heard you have to write a paper and it's just writing a business plan. And I thought, you can't learn entrepreneurship in a class. Like, that's stupid. But I was forced to take the class. I couldn't change it. So I get in the class and I sit down and they're like, all right, what does everyone in this class want to do? And everyone had amazing ideas, but they were like, the only issue is like, I can't actually do this. So I was like, everyone thinks it's impossible. But like, how do you think any of these massive companies started? Like, obviously there was a way to do it. Like Elon Musk can do a self-driving car. Like, I'm sure 10 years ago, nobody thought that was possible.
Yeah.
So I was like, why don't I just interview the world-class people athletes, celebrities, actors, entrepreneurs, people that got to the top of their game, and asked them how they did it. So that's where that started with the podcast.
So did you, when you wanted to interview him, were you inspired by any other podcast you were listening to, or were you just like, I just want to interview him?
Yeah, I didn't know anything about podcasts or anything. I just thought, like, if I go to a billionaire and say, hey, I'm 16 at the time, will you talk to me? You inspire me? They're going to be like, hell no, kid.
What made you think you could do that?
I mean, at that point, I was like, they'd say no to that. But if I go and say, hey, I'm 16 and I can help you connect with a young audience that you've never been connected to, can I have 5 minutes of your time? More likely, still not very likely. So I was like, because the whole thing is like, even right now, I'm not concerned about getting money or getting a name in terms of business. Like, my entire goal until I'm like 25 is building a network of people where they feel like I've provided them value, and I have a big enough network across a large enough group of people where anyone I ever need to know, I'm 2 calls away. So like, I felt that was my way to get connected to the most important, and not important, but high level people, while giving them value so they felt like it was worth it for them too.
And who was the first person that you interviewed, like the first kind of like big person that you interviewed?
Yeah, so for the first like 10, it was all young entrepreneurs who at that time I thought like, whoa, these are and now they're like very close friends of mine. But at the time, people were like Connor Blakely, Ben Stern, who was on Shark Tank, one of my buddies, Brennan, who started this $2 million a year sock company. Like, I thought these were like idols. And they were the first ones. But the first big one, I got a couple cool, like, big entrepreneurs, but people you don't really know the name of, but they were super successful.
Great. Tell us about them.
There was a couple of people I just reached out to on Forbes 30 under 30. I was like, that's where I can find my list. Like, I don't know where else to find these people. So I reached out to, I literally pulled up the Forbes 30 under 30 list, and I was like, I'm going to send out 300 cold emails a day to any entrepreneur that I want to meet and hope one of them responds. So I sent an email to every Forbes 30 under 30 person, every Fortune 20 under 20, 40 under 40, all of that. And I got responses from some of them. So I got to interview a bunch of people from Forbes 30 under 30. Stacy Ferreira, who founded Forge, which is a very cool company. Then I was like, you know what? Why not just go for the fences and email Gary Vaynerchuk? So I emailed him 20 times, didn't hear back. And then at that point, I'd gotten a response from Mark Cuban. I'd emailed Mark Cuban a couple times, and he responded. And I was like, what do you do podcasts? And apparently he doesn't do phone calls. Like, even my buddy who's a partner with him from Shark Tank, apparently he either meets in person or sends emails. That's it. He doesn't text or do calls, which is weird. But so I was like, can I just ask you the questions by email? And he's like, sure. So I sent him an email with questions. He responded back. But I was like, okay, if I can get an answer from Mark Cuban, I can get an answer from anyone. I thought. So I didn't hear back from Gary after 20, sent another 20, still no answer.
And like, I just got to ask.
Yeah.
So like, how are you, like, is the second one like, hey, it's Jesse again? And the third one, Gary, Jesse here again. And then the fourth, like, or are you just acting as if he never saw it?
So I changed the first time I sent out cold emails, the first like 1,000 I sent out, it was like this like 2-paragraph long thing diving in. And I had this thing called Mixmax where you could see if it gets opened and how many times it gets opened. So I was seeing that some of these dudes were reading it, and I was like, damn, this is not working. So I changed my message to like a 3-line thing. Like, for example, to Gary, hey Gary, I'm a 17-year-old podcast, or I said 16 because I thought the younger I was, the better it would work. So I made the subject line 16-year-old podcaster. And I was like, hey Gary, I'm a 16-year-old podcaster. I'm super inspired by your work. I have this many listeners. Past guests include, can I have 5 minutes of your time to connect with youth audience? And if I didn't respond, hey Gary, just looping back. Just wanted to see, 15th time, hey Gary, just following up. Wanted to see if you'd be down to come on. So yeah, it was the same thing.
So and then finally he was like,
what was the response?
So after like 40 times, still hadn't heard back. And then I remembered that he had a brother, AJ, who was the COO of VaynerMedia. And I'd met him once before. So I sent him an email and he's like, sure, I'll do it. And then we set up a date. And then the day before I was like, I should just do this in person. Like, why would I? So I was like, hey, AJ, like I'll be in New York City tomorrow. I had no intention of going to New York City. I mean, I'm 40 minutes away, so it's not crazy. But I couldn't drive at that time. So I was like, hey, I'll be in the city tomorrow if you want to do it in person. He's like, okay, sure, let's do it. So I take the train into the city, go up, I see Gary. And I say, hey, what's up? I'll be shooting you an email later. He's like, sounds good. And then I went and talked to all of his assistant, Tyler Schmidt, all of his video dudes. And then for the next 2 weeks, I probably went back to that office 4 times just to say hi to his assistant and all of his team members. And the way I did it was like, I said to one of the guys, hey, I have a meeting with blah, blah, blah. Do you mind if I stop by and say what's up? And then they said yes. And then I'd go to the other dude and say, hey, I have a meeting with this dude. Do you mind if I say hi to you? Just so I get on the list to get up there.
Yeah.
So I got really close with a bunch of them, which helped. And then finally, the 50th time or whatever I sent it, he's like, sure, 5 minutes in 4 weeks. So I was like, I think that's a win. And that's how that went down. So I got like 10 minutes. And
He said 5 minutes in 4 weeks, like in a month?
Yeah. 5 minutes in 4 weeks. Tyler set it up.
Love it.
So that's how that went down.
That's amazing.
After 60 emails.
Okay, so when you say 300 to 350 cold emails a day,
Yeah.
are those one by one or you
No, that's
bulk?
one by one.
One
No,
by one.
One by one. I was copying, pasting emails, copying and pasting in the sample thing, and then adding in like the individual personal stuff.
And are you doing this in Gmail or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was in Gmail
Doing
before school, during school, after school.
Love it.
It was all day.
Yeah, you just graduated from high school 2 months ago.
Yeah. I started college in 2 weeks.
You're gonna go.
Yeah.
Where are you going?
We
I
talk
knew
about
that.
this all the time.
College called Stevens Institute of Technology, which is in Hoboken, which is like 10 minutes from New York City.
Okay.
And they said they'd be flexible with the business stuff. And I don't know anything about the tech side of stuff. So I either want to try and learn some stuff or meet somebody who knows it way better than I do.
What type of stuff are you talking about?
Like, I just don't know, like coding or tech or
Yeah.
back end stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, I know the front end of a brand or whatever, but nothing on the back end. So I want to just go there, see if I can learn a little bit more. It's close. It's like 40 minutes from home, 10 minutes from the city. Gonna live on campus, and I'm giving it a shot.
Dude, I love it, man. And I
I know
think
Mikey thinks that we'll see how long that lasts. That's what Paul said.
I don't think he's lasting more than a year.
really?
No.
Here's
I
a-
don't get how you do. Like you own your own company now. You make money. You've already to me, he's learned more and is going to learn more in this next year from running a business than he will going to that school.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I would say though is lifestyle. So with lifestyle, if you're an athlete, it's impossible. But I mean, man, think about this. This is something I always think about. Kanye West and Dr. Dre can make their own beats. They're so much more powerful because they can do that. So the tech stuff you're talking about, if you can learn that in school, I mean, let's take Ryan, for example. Ryan, who's actually here today because Tommy's on vacation, he went to film school, right? Did he need to go to film school? No, he didn't need to go to film school. But I still think he's the most legendary dude making film. And like, it was beneficial, right?
Ryan would be Ryan regardless if he went to that film school.
Yeah, but how?
I wish he would. I mean, I don't know if he wants it. He won't even come on.
He won't come on. Well, Ryan, you want to come on? He shook his head. No, he's not coming on.
Ryan, can you just shake your head? Would you be able to make the films you're making now if you wouldn't have gone to that film school and everything else would have lined up? You would have worked for the barracks, but everything you did. Did the film school really change how good you are, how successful you are now?
Not necessarily.
If anyone didn't hear, that was a not necessarily.
I'm not going for
like this is my
the
point.
education.
See, that's the thing though, and that was kind of where we ended up agreeing on is for
Ryan went
connections.
for
I don't even think I'm going
and
for
for
connections
Jesse,
either.
Jesse, I don't kind of speak for you, but
No,
what
go
I
for
was
it.
told is that you want to go for experience, right? Life experience.
Yeah.
Which on that end, 100% agree, right?
Living
Yeah.
on my own, like
Yeah.
just the maturity stuff too, especially considering like my biggest fear ever since I was 9, I had like anxiety, panic attacks, separation anxiety. Like I went to sleepaway camp. I lasted 4 days, like freaked out, almost shut down the camp, threatened to run away. Like it was bad.
Just grow. You want to go and kind of grow a little
Yeah,
bit, right?
so the biggest thing I've always been afraid of is going to college, like leaving home. So I just think I need to do it.
You need
and I
to
just
do
think
it,
it's
yeah.
maturity, but 100%, I've learned probably 15 years of college education in the past year from just
Yep.
doing it.
I mean,
Dude,
you're
absolutely.
selling shoes at 9 years old, right?
Yeah.
And like to the tech point too,
Yeah.
right? Like, dude, if you're like, you know what, I want to go to school because I want to develop apps or whatever. I want to like do tech for what, and I don't know tech for shit. Then I can understand going to school to learn it, right? But like, if that's not your calling, you want to build business. Like, dude, you go get a tech guy.
What are you gonna study in school? Do you know?
I don't like, I have it down right now as business, but I don't want to learn like marketing. I feel like that's going to set me back.
Yeah.
I want to learn the stuff that like I should know that I don't, like accounting stuff and like the back end stuff, just so I have a general awareness of like the legal stuff, just stuff that I have no idea about. Cause like right now, like when I'm running my stuff, like it's me. And then I have one other dude who's like my age. He's way smarter than me. He's like, he was the salutatorian, like 4 or 5 GPA, but like, I don't know anything about like the actual legal stuff. I mean, I go to my dad for recommendations. Like, it's been great having a role model like that, but I don't know any of that. So that's the main reason.
See, I'll tell you my opinion. My opinion is if school is bad, if it's taking you away from what you're doing, but if it's driving you towards what you're doing, I wouldn't tell you not to. But I do agree that he might not last more than a year because what you're doing right now is on such a high level.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into some of
before we go,
ahead.
let's talk a little bit about the podcast, getting
That's
it
what I was gonna
started.
Yeah.
Challenges through it. I mean, dude, it's funny. I knew. So Eric took this class from
Andrew
Warner on how to start a podcast, right?
Okay.
So like all this, not me. This is all Eric.
Yeah, this is a way better setup than I got. I got my laptop, a $40 plug-in mic, and a glass table in my basement and a Wi-Fi connection.
So how did you figure
See,
it out?
and that's
You
what
just, like,
the
went
course
for it?
I took. That's what they said to do. So tell us about it.
I mean, I was just like, what do I need to do to get started? I couldn't edit. I tried doing it. Terrible at it. I was like, I can't afford somebody to do it though. So I reached out, and big shout out to Cody Boyce, who runs this company. I forget what it's called. I should probably be plugging it right now, but I have no idea what it's called.
We'll put it in the description.
Cody Boyce, I reached out to him and he's like, here's our typical rates, like $1,000 a month or whatever. And I was like, can I just pay you $500 to help me get set up on like set up the lips and stuff and the stuff that I tried doing it and I could not do it. So he's like, I'll do it for you for $500. So I like pulled some of my savings money from like the shoe selling and my bar mitzvah money. And I was like, I'm just going to put I convinced my parents to let me take $500 out and put it into that as like an initial investment for that. And then $40 mic. I already had an old laptop and headphones, like $20 headphones, have Wi-Fi, all set on that end. And he helped me do it. And then I tried to do the first couple episodes and it was not good. So then I was like, he's like, you know what? I see that something big could happen with you. And I think that you'll be worthwhile for it. So we'll do it for free. We'll do one episode a week for free forever. And I was like, damn, like,
really?
Thank you. So he's been doing it.
No way.
I mean, I've referred him out to people. I'm sure I've made him his money back, but he took a shot on me. And without that, I don't know where I'd be on that end. Cause
just to help you out.
Yeah. He was just like, yo, I'll do one episode. We'll have our team do one episode a week and do the full editing and production of it.
Okay. We're going to have to link them below just because that's huge.
Find his stuff.
Okay. And so what were you using? Google Chat? I mean, GChat or
for what? For the actual episodes?
When they started producing it, how are you contacting people? Skype or
to actually do the podcast?
Yeah.
Skype with Ecamm, which is like the thing to record it. Yeah, just Skype.
Okay. So you were Skyping people in, and then tell us about, I was going to say the exact same thing you were saying, Mikey. So tell us about some of the guests.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of what end, like getting them?
Yeah, like you mentioned before Jack Dorsey, and like tell us about some guests and how you got them on and how it went.
Yeah, definitely my favorite story is the Jack Dorsey story because it's just such a crazy story. He was on the list of people that like I want to have for sure, like goal people like Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Jack Dorsey, Jeff Bezos, those dudes.
Yeah.
And I saw he was on the Twitter Periscope just doing like Q&A. So I spammed literally for an hour, just copy pasted my phone. Hi, I'm 17. Will you come on my podcast for 5 minutes? And eventually he said, sure. And I'm like, okay, that's awesome. But like, just because he said sure doesn't mean anything. Like, how do I get in touch with him? So I kept spamming, how do I get in touch with you? And I didn't get a response.
Well, did you try tweeting him at first and that didn't work?
Well, he was still on the live. So still on the live, I was spamming, how do I get in touch with you?
Yeah.
And then didn't hear back. So then it was done and I was like, how can I prove that he said it? So I watched the entire stream again and I screen recorded the part where he said sure.
Yeah.
So I had the thing, he saw, like he said, Jesse, sure. So I was like, okay, I got something. So I tweeted at him. He eventually responded later that night, but I was like, I'm full mode. Like, I'm going to pull this off before the end of the business day. So didn't hear back. then I looked
sorry,
up.
I'm laughing. It's amazing, dude. It's amazing.
Then I looked up, like on Twitter, I looked up like Jack Dorsey assistant or executive assistant at Twitter. And I didn't realize like there's 400 assistants there because they've like tons of executive roles. So then I literally called Twitter's offices. It rolled through to voicemail. I was like, damn, I just took an L. And then I called Square, which is the other company he owns. Yep. And they answered. I was like, hey, I got a crazy story. And I ran them through what happened. And they're like, okay, cool. Tweet at this person who was his assistant. So I tweeted at her. She responded, got into emails. And then Jack Dorsey ended up responding later in the day. He's like, I'll loop back. And I emailed jack@twitter.com. I was like, might as well take a shot. And it ended up being his email. Like he emailed back and he forwarded me to his assistant.
That's amazing.
So then his assistant, he has like 50 assistants, but one of his assistants was like, we'll do 5 minutes. We can reach out next time you're in New York. He's in New York, or you can do it in California. I'm like, I'll fly out for 5 minutes with him. So I had plans to go fly out there and get on a 6-hour flight each way for a 5-minute meeting. And then it ended up being, hey, Jack's actually going to be in New York tomorrow for 1 day. What do you want to do for the 15 minutes? I was like, sweet. They just added 10 minutes on without recognizing. And then we set it up, and then I ended up getting 30 minutes of an interview, which was awesome. He's a great dude. And then for another 20 minutes, I got to sit chatting with him and their CMO, Leslie Berland, who's another guest on the show, and talk about some stuff we might be trying to work on a little bit down the line, which was super cool. So that was a super fun story and experience that happened within a month.
Tell us about another guest. This is super intriguing.
There's been a ton of funny ones, but I think cool one when I interviewed Grant Cardone. The first thing when he picked up the Skype call, he's like, I don't know how the hell you pulled this off, but clearly you're doing something right. But like, I don't know why I agreed to this. And he's in the middle of eating like his lunch. He's like, he asked his assistant, he's like, why did I say yes to this again? But that was just a funny story. But he was a great dude. I know you've done your stuff with him. But that was a fun podcast.
Oh, I know what I forgot to ask you this. So in that 20 minutes or 20, 25 minutes you spent with Jack Dorsey after the interview, any takeaways there? I mean, pretty legendary guy.
Yeah, the dude, you can just tell the dude's like a level higher than me. Like just the way he talks and the intelligence there, I just don't feel like we're on the same level. Like what he's thinking about is so far ahead of everything else. And I think the biggest takeaways are he was like, I didn't go into this wanting to be an entrepreneur. Like my goal wasn't to be an entrepreneur. It was just like I liked connecting people and I started Twitter and I didn't really know what being an entrepreneur meant, but like it just happened. Like I think people focus too much on, oh, I'm going to do this so I can be an entrepreneur or so I can do X, Y, Z, rather than just following what you're super passionate about and then letting the rest fall into place.
That's rad to hear someone on his level say something like that.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. Okay.
How many listeners do you have on podcast?
Overall, we've had over 100,000 listeners. Each episode could be anywhere from like 20 to 40,000.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Between
that's great.
Spotify, iTunes, Facebook, all that
Love
stuff.
it. Yeah, we need to expand. We'll be doing that
You
soon.
guys are way ahead of the game. For me, though, for the first 3 months of the podcast, I didn't look at the numbers at all. I opened it the first day. I was disappointed that I got 300 people.
We're looking every week.
And
Yeah.
Bork's looking every night.
after that, I was like, you know what? Like, I'm just going to focus on putting good content out and not look at the... So probably the last time I looked at the numbers was... I mean, my producer keeps track of it, but the last time I actually asked for them was probably like a month or two ago. I just really don't care. Like, I'm just... Like, the goal of the podcast for me isn't... I don't really have it's just putting my message out and interviewing cool people and talking with cool people.
Yeah.
But, like... I didn't want to make any money off of it the first year. Like, I wasn't concerned with sponsors. Like, that's just not my end goal.
Yeah, you know what? I want to talk about this for a second.
Go for it,
I
yeah.
totally agree with you, but I fight myself on that point almost every day.
Yeah.
Because, like, and Gary's always talking about this, right? It's all about the content. It's not about the followers, right? But, like, I don't know if it's that I'm so obsessed with growth.
Yeah.
But, like, I can't not keep track of it. Like,
Yeah.
I want to see getting better, what's working, how to... And I don't want the content to suffer, but like, I can't do it.
For my business, that's how I do it. And I need everything like daily reports of what's working and what's not. It's weird. For the podcast, I just feel a bit more for me as like, not a hobby, but something that I enjoy doing that's not like work. And I'm just not as competitive with it.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Well, yeah, and I will say for us, I was expecting to not be looking at the numbers, but then we did so much better than we thought that I like
addicted.
looking when you're doing good.
Dude, we're
Yeah.
tripping.
Yeah.
For everyone that listens to us, seriously, we're blown away. Thank you guys. But we were not prepared for this.
Yeah.
We thought it was going to be end of year one. We'd be basically where we're at.
Where are you guys at?
We checked
15K.
about 15,000 subscribers.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, your episode, I think 13 or 14. So we weren't
are
expecting
killing
growth
it.
Yeah, we weren't
until like
expecting
30,
that. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, you guys
Yeah.
are killing it.
So per episode, you said 20 to 40?
Yeah.
Okay. Dude, that's really good.
Yeah, it's
and
insane.
what I was going to ask though is, do you put the video out?
If there is a video, then yes.
Okay, you put
but
it
there's
out?
not always a video.
And
but
you
if
put it on YouTube, or what do you put it?
I need to do it on YouTube. I really
What do you
like.
put on your Facebook?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Facebook.
Yeah,
because if I'm
we're-
doing a video, it's
yeah.
on Facebook Live.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, our all of our viewers are pretty much, our listeners are on iTunes, not YouTube. So
Yeah.
some of them go on YouTube, but anyways, we won't get into that too much. Let's go back to your
Anyway.
story.
Let's
So
not talk about us. Let's talk
Nah,
about
your guys' stuff is interesting. My
Well, dude.
podcast, mine's coming out right now. My interviewer.
there we go. So the podcast led to other stuff. And I want to get into your agency and the clients that you work with. So let's talk about speaking for a little bit.
Yeah.
How was the first paid speaking engagement? You get paid to speak.
Yeah.
So how did that start?
It was back in June of not this past year, like the year before it. So June of junior year of high school. So June of 2017. And I got a random like Facebook messenger from this woman, and she was like, "Hey, like, would you be around to talk later today? I have a speaking event, and I'd love to hear if you're interested." And I was like, "Yeah." So she was like, "We've run this before. We had Gary Vaynerchuk and Casey Neistat last year. Like, we'd love to see if you're interested to talk about like what you've done and talk with other young entrepreneurs." I was like, "I'm all over it." So that was this February.
Okay.
And I'd never done a big speech, maybe like 100 people at a school. So getting flown to Toronto and doing all that.
Oh, this was your first paid one.
Paid one.
And it was alongside Gary Vee.
in front of 3,000 people.
That's so rad.
It was-
Okay, so
That's
keep
the one
going.
that you showed me videos of that you posted? Yeah.
So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. But I was super scared. Like 3,000 people is a lot of people. So it was super cool. I mean, getting to speak alongside Gary and a couple other people that are awesome speakers that I'm friends with, or I look up to. It was tons of fun, but it was crazy. Like I never expected to speak to 3,000 people at 17 at that point. And then it was cool having, like, my favorite part of it, not having people come up and ask for pictures, like that's like whatever, but having people come up to me like, wow, what you said about having anxiety now doing this inspired me. Or like a kid that came up crying and was like, wow, I deal with this too. Now I know that there's something I could do about it. Like that's the stuff I care about.
Yeah.
I don't really care about the other stuff. If I can impact one person at a 10-person speech, like same
Rad.
thing.
I didn't realize that was your first paid engagement was
Yeah.
alongside Gary. That's awesome. And is there anything else you want to touch on before we move into the agency stuff, Mikey?
No.
Okay.
Dude, it's hard, man. I'm in such a weird spot because I talk to him so much. I like
You know
so
you
much.
know a
I'm
lot,
like,
yeah.
It's so weird how we've never met in person before.
yeah.
I know, man. I captured it on
Well, it's
vertical
kinda,
video.
yeah, but you know, it's kind of the beauty of, like we were just talking about, this beauty of today. It's like everything's digital. We FaceTime somebody. Like you see people when you talk. You know what I'm saying?
And that to me is the value of doing the video stuff. And that's why I'll never want to completely stop doing it, is just because there's magic behind like getting in person and having a meeting and doing this. And like, we've had some fun people. It's really fun to do this. So, and you kind of bond and get to talk more in depth.
Do you want to keep speaking?
I mean, so the thing
Did you
is,
enjoy it?
I loved it. It was tons of fun. I don't want it to be my main thing. Like, that's just not my interest. But if it comes up, I'm all over it.
Did you write it?
No.
It's free ball.
So I had like, I had a slideshow. It was just pictures though, and like a couple main points. So there was not a lot of writing, and I practiced it in front of like my family, and like I had like 10 minutes to do it, and I had a couple points I wanted to hit on, like my story and anxiety stuff, the podcast, business, all of that. But besides that, like when I walked out on that stage, all that sort of just like flew out the window. So I sort of just freeballed it.
Tell us about the anxiety.
Yeah, totally. So it started when I was 9, when I went to the sleepaway camp. Immediately started having panic attacks nonstop. I'm away from home. I have no idea what's happening at home. In a random place. So I literally, like, of course, there's tons of kids that get homesick at sleepaway camps. So they like told my parents like he's homesick or whatever. And then, but there's not a lot of kids that they have to call, and they're like, he's shutting down the camp, like he's threatening to run away. That was me. Like I was like, they're like, damn, you have perseverance to be able to shut down a camp. So I just kept on going. I went home after 5 days. It was like super low for me at 9, like knowing that I couldn't do that. And then ever since that point, I started having panic attacks whenever there was something that changed. So like starting a new school, like when I started middle school, I spent days in the guidance counselor's office just having panic attacks nonstop. Before school every day, I'd have to walk up and down my hill with my dad just to calm down, like crazy stuff.
So how'd you get through that? I've never had a panic attack before.
I hope you never do. I wouldn't want that. I almost have one. I had a mini one this morning in the bed at Paul's house about college.
About college, yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever had one?
It's funny. I didn't have one until I was 27.
Yeah.
They're insane.
It feels like you're having, like,
Crazy.
I wouldn't know what it is in comparison to because it's just normal for me. But basically, it just feels like your heart starts pounding like you're doing a marathon. You can't breathe. You're sweating everywhere. Your brain starts, like, I already have ADD, so my brain's already racing. But it just puts negative thoughts in your head, and you can't prevent it. And the more you try to stop it, the more it goes longer. So you can't let it just roll through. So it's a terrible feeling. Like, you just get super emotional and you start freaking out, and it's like, oh my God, the world's ending. So I had that, like, beginning of high school. So then right before high school started, the summer before high school, I was like, you know what? I finally got past this. Like, I'm going to go on this trip with my friend, and it's like a teen tour thing where like 30 people go to like California or whatever. You go and see all these places. I was like, I'm ready for this. I convinced my parents I'm good. Wake up on the morning of the thing, panic attack.
Yeah.
Get on the plane. I was like, okay, landed, panic attack for like probably 3 days straight, calling my parents nonstop. Got picked up after 10 days in Vancouver. Like, and that was just super embarrassing. I was old enough to like feel embarrassment and know, like, I'm going into high school and I'm getting picked up from a thing where I had 6 more days left. So then that panic carried over to starting school. But really the big turning point was when I started doing the business stuff, like finding something that I love doing. I don't have enough time to think about anything else. Like, I used to not sleep at friend's house and family's house overnight. Like, it just scared me. Like, I wouldn't sleep over.
So have you identified what the triggers are? I don't want to go too much into this, but I'll say for me, it's when a loved one is something's happening and it's out of my control. And now I've figured out how to, like, pretty much prevent that. Like, I know when I'm susceptible to it, but when something's happening to someone I love and I can't do anything about, that's what triggered me. So have you figured out what the triggers are yet?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest triggers for me are really starting something new that I'm not comfortable with. So like starting college and moving out of my house, like not comfortable with either of those and never done that before. Or just stuff where I feel like it has an impact on my life and I can't do anything about it. Like, and it's just, I have no control. Like, I just get freaked out even too in anything where I don't have control. Like, I mean, no, in business, I know there's stuff I'm not good at and I'm happy passing that off. But in life, like important stuff that it freaks me out. But the biggest thing for me has just been recognizing, like, I've had a ton of an awesome, like, support network and all of that on just getting me through it. But once I started doing the business stuff, like, I go to New York City twice a week on my own. Like, that would have used to scare the shit out of me. Yeah. And flying to LA on my own and coming for 3 days, like, that would have been, if you told me that like 3 years ago, I would have said I'm more likely to get struck by lightning twice in the same day.
That's yeah. So for anybody struggling with that, I'd say identifying the triggers is always, because then once you know what's causing it, then you can start like avoiding or like correcting that. So it's tough, man. I definitely feel that one. And would you say now you're like pretty like you've figured out how to manage it at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just super aware of it. So like, I know when it's coming and I just know that it's not even worth trying to prevent it because it's just going to come on 10 times stronger and just let it flow through. But I mean, I really haven't had a serious panic attack in years. Yeah. Which is great. I'm sure I can guarantee you though, in 2 weeks, I'll be feeling it.
Yeah. I mean, dude, it is crazy though. You're dealing with some pretty big stuff. I mean, the situation, and let's move into the agency stuff and start talking about that. I mean, dude, you're describing really high level situations. So it's funny because even though that has been something you've described you struggle with, you handle these pretty crazy situations, like in meetings with huge companies really well.
Don't feel it at all.
Yeah,
like,
which is funny.
I can become super emotionless and just make decisions it's so weird.
You know what, though?
Because that's what most people would struggle with. Go ahead.
Now, this might be a terrible analogy, but remember when like we used to go skate and like we were trying a trick somewhere and someone was watching me? I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Remember somebody would like basically
Really?
I'd be trying a trick and someone would be walking down the streets and like, normal person, and they'd stop and look at me and I'd see them. All of a sudden I'd like basically stare at them and wait for them to leave because I couldn't try it until they left. But then I could go skate like Street League in front of 10,000 people and it wouldn't bug me at all.
There's just certain triggers and you just have to like understand them for sure.
And I think some cases you just can't, like you can't
Like
freeze
I
up,
love
right?
being under pressure. That's like one of my favorite things. But I hate being alone. Like when I know a trigger for me to start feeling like panic and that kind of stuff is when I'm alone or don't have any plans. Like that's when my brain starts flowing. So I was like sitting in bed for 3 hours this morning, just going through emails, and that started doing it.
You know what? I'm going to take something back right now. I think college will be good for you.
You think so?
Yeah. I think you should absolutely go to college. Just hearing that. Just like hearing like like kind of your personal struggle of like being, dude, I think that would be huge.
Yeah, I just need to, I don't care as much about finishing it. I just care about doing it successfully for however long it is.
Yeah, totally.
So let's talk about the agency. Yeah. So you started off you started doing entrepreneurial stuff, and how did you decide that an agency is what you wanted to pursue?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even go into a thing like, hey, I'm going to do an agency. And I don't even know if I even would consider it an agency at this point. I'd just say that I went from speaking stuff to then I got in some meetings with like Fortune 500 companies. And they were like, hey, we'd love your take on XYZ for a younger generation. Like, what do you think about the marketing stuff for it? Like, how should we reposition our branding and our social for it? And then I started working with some companies where either they didn't have a digital and social media presence or they did and it was just terrible. So really, I'd say there's a couple parts to it. The lowest part is working with businesses and companies and entrepreneurs on a lower end, or athletes like Paul, on just taking over their social and digital. And we have a team that literally just runs all of their stuff for growth, engagement, but then also monetizing it. So we've started to do like getting brand deals for people and like doing some partnerships, whether it's for Paul or some other people we work with on doing like brand development, biz dev, all of that. And then on another end, it's working with Fortune 500s on a more macro marketing plan for a younger demographic.
And I don't know if I said this already, but Jesse currently manages Paul Rodriguez's social media, or helps Paul with his social media. So let's talk about some clients real quick that you've done stuff with in the past.
Yeah.
I know that naming clients is always, we also have clients. So
yeah,
just what are some clients you've done stuff with in the past?
Yeah. In the past, done stuff with the Knicks, the Rangers last season, Madison Square Garden as a whole. Hoping to do some more stuff with them this coming season. And then a couple of just business brands that we've done some stuff with in the, I don't know what I'd call it, just in the finance industry, doing some stuff with them on their younger stuff. But the stuff I enjoy, like I love doing the Fortune 500 stuff. The only issue sometimes with the Fortune 500 stuff is it takes forever. So we're fine going through the process, but it's just so much more fun working with somebody like Paul, or doing it with a client where like you can make a decision today and implement it tomorrow. Yeah. Like when we're doing stuff with the Fortune 500 client, it's taking 4 to 8 weeks to get a decision made. Like, but I love doing both. Definitely not turning down any Fortune 500 clients. So hit me up if you need me.
Yeah. Any social strategies out there for people trying to build their brands? We all know that the algorithm is a huge struggle right now.
Yep.
We're going to go more in depth, but right here in the podcast, is there any recommendations for people trying to build their social media presence who are jammed up by this algorithm?
Yeah, I mean, the algorithms suck because once you think you got it down, it changes again.
Yep.
And then 2 weeks later, you're like, I got it, and then it changes again. So I'd pay less attention to the quote unquote algorithm and pay more attention to engaging with your audience and posting content, not what you think is good for yourself, but what other people care about. So like, I know if I post like family stuff, like sure, it's going to do well, but people aren't on my page to do that. So find what your goal is and lock down on that. Like, let's say you're a windsurfer. Instead of posting you windsurfing, normal surfing, skateboarding, all that, become the biggest windsurfer in the space. And once you have that audience, spread it out. but don't spread yourself too thin. I think that's an issue tons of people have. Just find one thing that you think you're really good at and can provide really good content on and blow that up.
Yeah. So double down on the windsurfing, become the best windsurfer, and then add in the fact that you ride a longboard too.
Yep. So become the biggest windsurfing Instagram account, lock down on that.
Well, dude, I think that it also like the personal brand, I feel like is like kind of more new.
Yeah.
Even though people said that a personal brand, it's kind of real now.
Yeah.
And people forget that a personal brand needs to be treated like a brand,
Yeah.
right? And it would be weird if like someone like, I don't know, Tesla all of a sudden started posting cars with motors in them,
Yeah.
right? Or like,
Or
shit,
if Elon Musk started posting pictures of himself on the Tesla page, like you'd be like, what's going on right now?
yeah, it's like you just have to stick to your brand, even if it's personal.
Okay.
Like Ben brought that up too.
Yep. Ben
You
did
know?
bring that up.
Yeah.
Okay. So what about if you're transitioning a brand? What would you recommend for transitioning from, if you're a brand and you have a loyal audience in one regard? Mike, why are you smiling at me?
Keep going, dog. Keep going.
What if you've had a long established brand? What would you say as far as transitioning into adding another aspect or component to your business?
I mean, I know I've had hours of discussions with Mikey on this.
Oh yeah, he's up to speed then.
He
But
totally is.
But also, it's something we do with Paul on a day-to-day. Like, he's got a diehard skate audience, but he also is like getting into acting and business stuff and all that. I think it really comes down to, you never want to alienate your initial audience because they're the ones that got you to where you are.
Yeah.
But you also don't want to stay there. Like, if you want to continue to grow, unless you're growing in that current industry, you're going to cap out. So I think it comes down to, you can't go from, all right, I'm putting 5 posts of, let's use skateboarding as an example. And let's say you own a water company as another example. 5 posts a week of skateboarding and nothing of the other companies you own, to going to 1 post of skateboarding and 4 posts of your business. You got to do it in a strategic way where over like 6 months, you're planning out, okay, we're letting our audience know that I'm doing other stuff through Instagram stories. And I think Instagram Live is the most powerful tool to tell people about a transition, because you can go on and just have a normal conversation with your viewers and say, here's what's up, and leave that on your story forever. But I think it just happens slowly. So you may go from 5 posts of skate and 1 post of your business to 4 and 2, and then 3 and 3, and you slowly fade it out. But you got to make sure you're never taking away from what your initial thing is. So however you can tie it in, you need to. And obviously you need more specifics to actually have an entire plan set up, but it's not a 1 week fix or a 2 week transformation. It's a 6 to 12 month process to get to it.
Let's dissect and get into taking action.
Yeah.
Because that's a theme I'm seeing here of like, you see stuff and you go and do it. So I don't know if it's the motivation or what you would say to people that are in the position where they want to take action.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things, at least that I know from my own experience. The first thing that comes to mind is, I'm not experienced enough. I'm too young on what I want to do, and what are people going to think about it? And that holds a ton of people back. I'm shocked every day by how many people, they're like, oh yeah, I have this thing and I really think it could do great. And I'm like, oh, why haven't you started it yet? They're like, I just don't think it's the time. And I'm like, there's never a right time. The stars don't align and say, hey, Jesse, it's time for you to start today. You don't get a phone notification that says time to get going. You just like, you should start the second you listen to this podcast, whatever that thing that's been waiting for 6 months, whatever the first step is to do it, whether that's setting up your website or sending an email or texting whoever, you should do it immediately, because the more you wait, the less likely you're ever going to do it. So for me, it was just like, I'm going to leverage my age. Like, I'm only going to be 16 and 17 for so long. Like, that's my way to get like, if I'm like, hey, I'm a 30-year-old dude that has no listeners, no anything, don't have any established name, but hey, I want to do a podcast. It's going to be way harder to get these people on than, hey, I'm 16-year-old trying to hustle to get people on. Would you be down for 5 minutes? Like, my ability, I'd recommend to everyone to find their unique selling point on how what they can leverage. For me, it was my age. For other people, maybe, hey, I'm the youngest person, or I'm the first female to be a professional skateboarder, whatever it is. Like, that's reached a certain point. Find your unique point to hit on.
Dude, I love that. I love that. And I'm gonna add in kind of my 2 cents on it, and then there's a question I want to ask you based off that. So I'm the type, I guess I'm the person that failed and failed and failed. And I feel like a lot of the reason that I failed was because I was doing things that were based off of opportunity, and I really didn't feel like we're 100% me. So a couple questions. Number one, and I think I already know the answer, but when you started doing this, like when you started emailing 300 people a day, you must have had some sense of, I'm good at this and this is in my DNA. Did it feel like a fit for you?
I mean, it's the way I could tell was that it didn't feel weird. And everyone in school is like, what are you doing? What do you mean you're emailing Mark Cuban or who? Like, are you insane? And I was like, what do you mean? I'm just like emailing them. And they're like, why are you starting this podcast? Like, what are you? And I was like, I don't know. It's just normal. Like, I could tell from that everyone was like, why are you doing this? And that's so weird. Or like, how'd you come up with that? And I was like, I don't know. It's just natural to me. That's how I could tell. And I knew from when I was 9 that I'd done that other stuff. And my dad's an entrepreneur. Like, I could make the connections in my head to recognize like, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is why I'm here. So, yeah.
And I feel like a lot of times people they think they want to do something, and then that's really not their thing. But when you're doing something that's not you, you won't push through, you won't make it happen. And I think sometimes people get stuck on, this could be my thing, and it's not, and then they stop. So one thing I would say is keep going to find your thing. But how do you get out of being stuck? Like for people that are listening, I don't know if you've ever been in that position, but how do they get out of being stuck and figure out the thing that they want to do?
So on like a macro, I have no idea because I've never done it for like a month or for like a year or 2 years period. But I have it every day where I feel like it's ready to do something for the past 3 weeks and I just don't know how to go about it. Biggest thing I think is finding mentors that you can give a call and be like, if you can find 10 to 15 people that you admire and really appreciate and look up to their advice, if you can call them and be like, hey, I'm in this spot, like I've been waiting on it for 3 weeks, like what's your thoughts? Because you're gonna psych yourself out and never get to it if you just are sitting there. But you may just need somebody to tell you what you've been thinking to confirm it and continue on, because you sitting there does nothing.
Yeah. And that's actually something that Drama said to us on the podcast. He's like, oh yeah. And you'd think he's super far ahead, but he's like, I'm just learning. I'm just here. And that's one thing I think can help is like, go out and just learn. And that's one thing I've noticed from you is you're like, I'm not trying to monetize, even though you are monetizing it, right? You are making money with your agency. You're just out here learning. So, I think that's a good way to get unstuck is just to go into a learning mode. And then also, I guess the best way I could kind of say it is that when you are doing what is a fit, you don't care about the opinions of others because you know it's you. And 100%. That's something I'm seeing with you. You're 17 or 18 right now?
18 in a week.
18. You can tell, dude. You can tell it's just like a fit. So one more thing I realized that he just mentioned that I want to bring up is how did you get into the network? Like you talk to Mikey almost every day. You do Paul. Yep. So how did you start networking with these bigger name people? You go on their podcast. That doesn't mean you're going to talk to them the next day.
Yeah.
You have a pretty good network. So who are some of the people you started talking to regularly?
Mikey's a huge one. Okay. Mikey's put me in touch with a ton
Did you hear
of
how it
people.
happened?
No. Tell us.
He was on a live.
Oh, yeah, I was on a live.
Yeah, he was on a live and I must have like said a comment and like he just like on his live goes, Mikey, hit me up after. I'm going to hit you up. I'm like, okay.
You know what?
I saw that. No, it was DM. Boom, 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 boom.
I saw the check mark and I was like, I should talk to that dude.
You saw the blue check mark?
Yeah.
There
I never told you that.
Yeah, the blue check. Yeah, it's like, so, and then
and
that's
you
how it
seemed
happened.
enthusiastic and you were like chill. And I was like, Mikey, I'm going to DM you after this.
Yeah. And then he DM'd me. And then
I
we like, and this is the thing. This is when I started telling you, like, right? I was like, it was right when I started connecting with all these like younger guys, right?
Yeah.
And their whole thing is like, let's jump on a call. Let's jump on a call. And that's like different than like our world, right? Like, you don't really
Let's
jump on a
FaceTime
call.
right now. You're like, okay.
Yeah. Then it was like all of a sudden like talking to a different dude every day, but it basically started with Jesse.
Yeah.
I'm like,
that
okay,
first
I'll
time.
call you or whatever.
It was, that first day I think it was January 1st. It was like, it was early in the year. I think it was January 1st, first time we talked.
Of 2017?
2018.
2018, right? Yeah.
And I think that we talked for like an hour and 20 minutes.
I can't even remember.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
And Mikey was in like hustle mode. You were like going psycho. Like
and you were
people.
freaking out because you were losing Instagram followers.
Oh, I was going through it, dude.
So yeah, Mikey's been a huge one. There's just so many. I definitely think in terms of actual connections and stuff, once you do one person's thing right, they're going to tell everyone about it.
Yep.
Like, it just happens that way. So that's why whenever we're working on somebody's thing, like, I'm staying up till 2 a.m. every day to make sure everything is 10 times what the person expected so that they don't even have a question in their mind on what they want to do about it.
Yeah.
So, like, we're doing 10 times hustle mode to make sure it's as perfect as it could be.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's like an incredible point.
So it started with Mikey. You networked with Mikey, and then who else are you? Like, you talk to Paul regularly. You have your clients. Like,
Yeah.
you're on building your network. You're doing pretty good.
One point I did want to hit up that got me into all this. I skipped over this. So end of last year, I met Brandon Steiner, who owns Steiner Sports.
Oh, yeah. I do,
Which is the biggest like sports memorabilia company in the world. Like they do all the signed stuff. He bought the old Yankee Stadium and sold it. Like baller of a dude. But I met him through one of my buddies, Connor Blakely, last year, and he was Brandon's like, "Hey, do you want to come to my house and play basketball?" I was like, "That's a little weird, but sure." And I suck at basketball. Like I can barely dribble. So I show up, and a bunch of pro athletes are there. He's 58 or whatever, but he's sick at basketball for a 58-year-old dude. There's literally like 5 pro athletes there, like Ray Rice, who's a football player, and all these guys. And they're like, "All right, we're playing." And I'm like, "Dude, I can't play," but I play. And then I'm talking to Brandon after, and we're talking about how he's unhappy with his social and all of that. And then he's like, "Do you want to go meet Derek Jeter?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So I go and meet Derek Jeter. It was like the craziest day ever. But then I stayed in contact with Brandon, and he's like, "Why don't you just come work for me as like helping me with my social? I'll let you be a sponge and learn everything." So right around now, of last year, I started working with him every day from school. I worked out with my high school. I left every day at 11 a.m. and I worked holidays. I worked every day, and I'd get there at 12:30 in the afternoon. I'd stay till 6 or 7. Some days I'd go back to his house and stay till 10:30, drive 2 hours a day. But I followed him everywhere. So if he was in a board meeting or with his executive team, it was 4 guys and me. Like all the guys who would work there were super pissed because like they didn't have access and I was sitting in every meeting.
Yes.
But I learned so much and I got to meet so many people. Like when he went up to Syracuse to do an autograph signing with Mariano Rivera on a private jet, like I was going with him. Like I just followed the dude everywhere I could. And that not only got me connections, but it got me crazy experience that I could never. I mean, I was getting paid like $12 an hour, but I didn't care. I would have done it for free.
Yeah, you would have done it for free for sure. And it's so rad too, posting like, "Hey, I'm on the private jet," like because I'm doing this, not like check out my private jet and faking it. That's rad that you did it like that. That's super rad.
And I didn't post it either.
Oh, you didn't post it?
I don't need to post that shit.
That's rad. That's Gary V advice right there, right?
I just don't see the upside.
Mikey posted all day when he went on the private jet.
Are you kidding me? That's
too.
my first time on a jet, Blair.
I would post it all day. We're about to go outside and post the Rolls Royce sitting outside.
If it was me and I did it, yeah, I probably wouldn't post it. I was about to say maybe I would have posted it.
Dude, we were on it, dude. Me, Paul, Cole, Malto, man, lights out.
Dude, if it was with friends and then I would do it.
I was with my boys flying to Colorado in the PJ by ourselves, dude. That
if it was a bunch of buddies, I would do it. I was like a
sponsor me chick, dog. We were like, boom, boom, boom.
If it was with a bunch of buddies, I'd do it. But like, I just don't think I need like.
You don't need to, but I will say this though: when that happened, that was a different time of Insta.
See, I always find some way to jab at Mikey,
man,
because everyone flexes now, and they post cars that they rent for a day. You can now pay a private jet company $300 an hour to keep it on the ground.
Well, yeah, look, like what you see now is like all these people looking like they fly private everywhere,
and they don't,
right?
And they don't.
One photo shoot, they change shirts. I've seen it happen before.
Yeah, so like you know what I'm saying, everyone knows that's not us.
No.
Like we got hooked up, man. That PJ was for free. Like we got a hookup, you know?
Yeah. Jesse, dude, honestly, man, you asked like how this was going. I think it's going amazing, dude. I really feel like you're just listening to you talk is inspiring, man. Like just I don't want to be cliche, but he just does it, you know, like just jump in and do it. And it's not like you haven't overcome stuff too. Like you battled some pretty crazy stuff. And dude, the one thing I'm noticing here is the confidence, dude. Mikey, any like straight up like, I mean, that's it, dude.
Well, to me,
there's more to it, but I'm noticing like high levels of confidence.
Well, yeah, and I think it's just going for it. It's
he just goes for it.
Hopefully, he's blasting 300 people up a day, emailing them.
And I will say this.
And wait, before I forget, too, I'm going to cut you off. Sorry. I think a really good point is how if you can't reach out to the person directly, you start looking for people in their circle to get to them. Dude, that's massive. That absolutely is.
Totally.
Because there's people that have done that with me, and it's like, it totally works. If you're
works.
trying, totally 100%.
It does. And I love when you hear like, oh, Jesse, like, I mean, I've heard Mikey talk about you, right? I've seen you online. And so you're like, he's networking with this guy. I love when you hear the part of like the 300 emails a day. Cause that's the part that people forget about, right? Like, oh, he just like met this guy. Like everybody think, oh, I was just luck. It's not luck, dude. You're like killing yourself emailing people, dude. It doesn't just happen.
Everyone just sees the picture with the person or that you met with them. They don't see the 2 a.m. cold emailing them,
Dude,
and cold
for
DMing
sure,
them
man.
and calling. Yeah, totally.
All right, Jesse. Well, dude, I totally appreciate it, man. You killed it on this podcast. Boom. And let's plug your stuff. So so people can find you online.
Yeah, probably my most active thing, Instagram, jesse.kay11.
It's Jesse, Jessie.
Just Jesse.
Jesse.
Yep, Jesse period KAY11.
Okay.
I answer every DM on there. That's definitely the best place to reach me. And then otherwise, I mean, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff too. I think those are all Jesse K811. But Instagram's 100% the best place to find me, or shoot me an email. I'll give my email, jessekay811@gmail.com. So shoot me an email if you need me.
Love it, dude. All right, guys.
And I appreciate you guys having me on.
Jesse,
Dude.
we're so stoked. Jesse just swung by coming to California from New York for like 2 days and made it happen. So thank you, Jesse. Appreciate it.
Anything else?
That is a wrap.
Okay.
Sweet.
All right.